Yeah, I really do. You know, when we had this notion of a book in our mind, Tim, which by the way, just if I may, just to step back a bit, it was never my life's ambition to write a book. You know, the journey of writing Unleashed was where a client asked us, "Hey, where can I learn more about that? Where do I learn more about this word liminal that you guys are using?" And then 10 clients asked, and 50 and 100, and we thought, wait, maybe we ought to write some of this stuff down, right? And so we sort of felt pulled to write a book. We weren't pushing towards doing that. But it's interesting that it was well before the pandemic, or some of the things that are happening even today in this very moment, that we had the idea for writing the book. And I will say it certainly felt, may I say, preordained that maybe this text and this reference piece would be available for people in the midst of this global turmoil. It really felt that way, and I think we feel a healthy dose of responsibility to get that message out.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about what you bring up, and I wanted, as I was making my notes and reading through the book, I wanted so much to not use examples and things that have come up in the previous 2 years with pandemic and social events. And, as we're recording this, there's some conflict over in the Ukraine and all. I'm hopeful by the time people listen in, some of this has been resolved. I really wanted it to be like more like today and current, but I don't think we can do that. Those are not the lives that we are currently living. So you did have a seed of the book prior to March of 2020, correct? I mean, you didn't like go into pandemic mode and start writing, right?
No, not at all. We in fact, the process started well before the pandemic was ever the case. I think, Tim, what occurred to us was, just more broadly speaking, like the world itself is more indisputably volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous than ever before. And I sort of tend to go to the data a bit. You know, if you go back to 1955, the average lifespan of an S&P 500 company at that time was 75 years. That was the average, birth to death time span for an S&P 500 company. Today, it's less than 15 years. And so the life cycle of almost everything in our lives today are accelerating at an accelerating rate. And we felt like there needed to be a reference piece, a reference guide for how to manage, and not just manage and navigate, but maybe leverage for our collective benefit these disruptive periods.
Hmm. And all right, there's one thing I do want to push back on, but I believe you, but I want to kind of play a little bit of an advocate against something. Are we arrogant today to think that our times are so volatile and challenging? I'm a history guy. I think you're a history guy too. You say you check data, and I've been reading some Old Testament things recently about the nation of Israel when they're going through the Exodus, and then also I've studied a lot of Civil War history, a lot of World War I, World War II, and I think to myself, what would I be like in 1941? Let's say late 1941 or 1942, 43. And so I ask you that question, not really as a pushback, but maybe a little bit. Are we a little bit, are we soft? Are we arrogant thinking, oh, the times have never been like they are today? Or is that valid?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say a number of things in there can both be true. First off, being we are soft for sure. I think there's no doubt about that.